Good evening, you're just in time for NTV Weekend Edition, and we will be live from the Nation Center as well as from Nyeri, or as the locals would say, Nyeri, where NTV On The Road has visited and will be over the weekend. Gladys Gashanja will be joining me in a moment, so stay put for that, as well as Dan Mwangi later on with the business news from there, but also top stories from around the country tonight.
Wakati accident ametokelezea hapa, wasikari alikuwa amesema ameona hii gari amekuja kugonga mwingine hapa, akakataa kufuata, akakuja kufuata wakati ameshatolewa na wananchi.
More blood, more deaths on the road. Road carnage claims 5 more lives at duka moja in Narok. Also tonight,
tusikia mlio kama kaka.
2 die and scores injured as building gives way, comes down on homes in Dawn incident. Plus,
magepatiana machaba hiyo ungekuwa kwa watu wote, lakini uhuru hapana iko kwa watu wote, ni kwa nudu hawa matajiri.
NTV On The Road takes you to a colonial village in Nyeri where residents still cling to the promise of land decades after independence. Plus, the Boni Halwale School of Political Dance.
Mimi niko katika safari ya biashara.
It's the business of defections going by another name. That's tonight on Bullseye.
NTV Weekend Edition with Mark Masai.
Good evening. David Agondoa will be my co-pilot as we are on air for the next just under an hour on NTV Weekend Edition. We're glad you can make time for us. To a top story. 5 people died this afternoon in a road accident involving 2 lorries and a matatu at Dukamoja area near Suswa in Nyeri County. While 4 died on the spot, the driver of the matatu succumbed to his injuries on his way to hospital. Police say they are hunting down the driver of the lorry, which rammed into the rear of the matatu as he fled the scene.
Witnesses say that the matatu collided with a lorry loaded with fish minutes after another driver of a separate lorry lost control of his vehicle and rammed into the rear of a shuttle belonging to Transline Classic Limited that was heading to Nairobi. Narok police boss Joseph Kisompe told reporters that 4 people, including a schoolgirl, died on the spot, while 1 died on the way to hospital. The deceased have been taken to Narok District Hospital morgue, awaiting identification and autopsy.
Mteremko ukiona vizuri sana. Na unaona kuna bumps. Ukaribia town, kuna speed limit ya wakati mtu anakaribia town. Na kuna bumps kwa sababu kunajulikana kuna watu. Ni hiyo driver took lose control. Manake hii kawaida sio sport accident. Ni kitu ambacho tunataka tuchunguze kwa kina. Tujue kama ilikuwa ni break ama ilikuwa ni nini, lakini bahati mbaya driver ametoroka, lakini tutampata.
Police are hunting down the lorry driver who escaped after the accident. 6 passengers were seriously injured and rushed to Narok Referral Hospital. Residents, however, blame police for the rise in the number of accidents on the roads.
Na leo tuliona mambo ingine kali sana kwa sababu wakati hii accident ametokelezea hapa, wasikari alikuwa amesema ameona hii gari amekuja kugonga mwingine hapa, akakataa kufuata. Akakuja kufuata wakati ameshatolewa na wananchi, mwili akalalisha. Hawa alikuwa wapi?
Ambulances from the Nyeri County government and police vehicles arrived on time to rush the casualties to hospital. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
More tales of death, and 2 people have been killed after a building collapsed in Barani, Malindi this morning. The building, which is adjacent to residential houses, was still under construction. According to the Kenya Red Cross, more than 20 people have been pulled out of the rubble as rescue operations continued. And as NTV's Rose Wangoi reports, the building had been earmarked for demolition by NEMA.
In yet another tragic incident, an 8-story building collapsed in Barani, Malindi. Witnesses say the building, which is still under construction, gave way at about 5 a.m.
Tusikia mlio kama kaka. Sasa kuna mwenzangu ambaye niko naye upande huu ndio akanipigia simu kunieleza kwamba tukutuku zetu, wajua tunapaki tukutuku hapa, zimeangukiwa na hizo vifusi.
Nikasikia nyumba sasa kitu imeporomoka. Sasa hata nikitoka nje kutakuangalia ni nyumba yangu inaporomoka. Hata nikiangalia jirani yangu opposite ni ile nyumba ghorofa 8 ndio ambayo imeanguka, nikatoka mbio.
One person aged 80 years died. Residents say the deceased was asleep when the tragic incident occurred. The other person, who is believed to be the owner of the ill-fated building, died in hospital while undergoing treatment. More than 20 people, among them 8 men, 4 women and a child, were rescued from the debris and rushed to hospital as rescue operations continued.
Tulipata watu wengine kule ndani wanapiga kelele, lakini hatukupata ile interest ya kuingia paka kule ndani kujaribu kuwasaidia, kwa sababu kuna vifusi vingi ambazo zimelalia, lakini bado kuna watu.
Mimi kwa rumu nilikuwa mimi peke yangu na mtoto wangu. Nikasikia huko kwa poromoka. Mimi moja kwa moja nikajua ni ile ghorofa. Naita, jamani, mwanzani ndio nisaidie, niko hapa nakufa, njoni mnitoe. Nikatoa mkono nikawaonesha kwamba niko hapa. Ndio wakanisaidia.
These 2 men are lucky to be alive. They were pulled out of the rubble hours after the building collapsed. They were among construction workers who had reported to work. The building, which housed people in its lower floors, fell on adjacent residential houses and a petrol station. Disaster management units on location say there is an unknown number of people still trapped under the rubble.
Hali ni ngumu kidogo kwa sababu nyumba yenyewe ni kubwa na vifaa mpaka sasa hivi hatujapata vya kuweza kuokoa wale ambao wengine wamebaki. Inasemekana bado kuna watu 2 ambao hawajapatikana mpaka sasa hivi, wako ndani ya hizi debris. Kwa hiyo juhudi inayofanyika sasa hivi ni kuweza kuita mashirika na kampuni ambazo zina uwezo wa kutafuta vifaa vya kuweza kutoa uzito huu.
It isn't clear what caused the building to collapse, though some blamed the heavy rains that have pounded the region in the past 2 days, causing floods. Meanwhile, the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, says the building had been earmarked for demolition after it was reportedly discovered that construction was done illegally. It has also emerged that the construction of the building had been halted in 2015 by local authorities following safety concerns.
Lakini hawa watu waliendelea kujenga. Na kwa nini waliachwa kuendelea kujenga hata kama kuna stoppage order ambayo ilikuwa imetoka kusimamisha hii jengo kuendelea?
Je, kuna maofisa husika, kuna mtu husika ambaye alikuwa anafanya jambo fulani na hakufanya, ndio maana tukapata maafa haya?
Search and recovery operations have been called off and will resume on Saturday morning. Rozongwe, NTV.
Transport was paralyzed along the busy Likoni-Lungalunga highway after River Ramisi burst its banks and floodwaters flowed into the highway. Hundreds of passengers were stranded from morning at the Ramisi Bridge along the key highway that connects Kenya to Tanzania through Lungalunga, as the bridge was covered by floodwaters from heavy rains that have been pounding the area. The local administration has cautioned motorists to exercise caution while driving along the road and avoid crossing the flooded bridge. The rains have wreaked havoc in the coastal counties, with Mombasa bearing the brunt of the heavy downpour that rendered most of the roads within the city impassable. Former Kenya Power Managing Director Ben Chumo today recorded statements with the Directorate of Criminal Investigations after his corruption case file went missing. Chumo was at the DCI headquarters following an order by the Anti-Corruption Court. Already, the Director of Public Prosecution has ordered investigations into the matter in which former and current officials of the power company are accused of aiding the theft of hundreds of millions of shillings. Silas Apollo reports.
In the dock today was Ben Chumo, a former boss at the Kenya Power Company, and the company's current secretary, Beatrice Meso. The two have been accused alongside others of a conspiracy to defraud the government of hundreds of millions of shillings through the purchase of substandard goods and the inflation of tenders.
Today's session follows the adjournment of a Monday sitting after the prosecution asked for more time to locate a file which it says is crucial to the case, but which went missing.
The file is a document belonging to the Energy Regulatory Commission, and which the prosecution believes contains evidence on the alleged irregular purchase of transformers worth 408 million shillings. Principal Magistrate Felix Kombo ordered that Chumo records a further statement with the Directorate of Criminal Investigations.
The fact that you should present himself to the DCI officers today from 2 to 4 p.m. for purposes of recording a statement and which is agreed. And therefore, that should any of the accused persons besides those already cited become a person of interest in that investigation, then the request should be presented before this court.
Earlier, the defense lawyers had expressed fears that the order by the magistrate could provide the police an opportunity to rearrest Chumo. On Monday, the prosecution while asking for more time to locate the files, said the missing document was a crucial link to the case, a request that the defense objected.
Ordinarily, the prosecution could concede to an application on the first instance, the defense could. But we are dealing with matters when the defense are not even allowed to breathe. That's why we are standing here and vehemently saying we want to go on.
Chuma and Mesa have been charged alongside Ken Tarus, a former managing director of the power monopoly, and other managers. They are also accused of conspiring to commit an economic crime. The company is said to have lost some 202 million shillings to a company identified as Moa Trading, which is said to have supplied substandard transformers. They have, however, denied the charges. The case will be heard on November 14th. Silas Apollo, NTV.
A court in Kimilili has ordered former Bungoma County Commissioner Joshua Chepcheng and Kenya Commercial Bank Bungoma branch manager to appear before it on the 8th of November this year over the misappropriation of 178 million shillings meant for internally displaced persons in Kimilili constituency. The court observed that 2,000 genuine IDPs were supposed to have been paid the said amount as compensation, but it ended up in the hands of fake IDPs. The magistrate, Christine Menya, was satisfied that it is through the facilitation of the office of the former county commissioner that the monies were paid to fake IDPs. The lawyer representing IDPs laying claim to the funds, Esther Kalwa, informed the court that the office of the former county commissioner and the bank collaborated in facilitating the fraud and the movement of the monies. Three journalists who were facing prosecution over allegations that they were paid to edit and distribute compromising photos of Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala were today discharged. The three, David Ndolo, Alex Mulwa and Stafford Ondego, was set free by Chief Magistrate Francis Andai after he was informed that the sections of the law that they were to be charged under had been suspended by the High Court. According to the charge sheet, the three were to be charged under the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. The Kakamega senator had accused the three of working at the behest of the Sports Cabinet Secretary Rashid Echesa to tarnish his image by manipulating images that would show him in a negative way. Meanwhile, Migori County Governor Okoth Obado says he will respect the conditions set by the court when granting him bail. In his first press briefing after his release from remand, the governor says his release on bail has given him a new chance to serve and effectively work for his people. The governor, who is on trial for the murder of university student Sharon Otieno and her unborn baby, was released after spending over a month in police custody. He was released on a 5 million shillings bail, but with tough conditions that have him barred from coming within 20 kilometers of the Migori-Homa Bay border. He, however, thanked the courts for the release and called his county residents to now focus on development. Serial public interest litigant Okia Omtata is back in court, and this time at the High Court Constitutional and Human Rights Division. His contention is what he describes as a major constitutional crisis if the next general election is held on the second Tuesday at the end of the 5th year. Omtata argues that the term would spill into a 6th year, which is against the Constitution. Ken Mijungu attempts to explain.
Okia Omtata is back in court, and this time seeking to upset the election calendar, which he says has been wrongly interpreted. Article 101(1) of the Constitution provides that a general election of members of parliament shall be held on the second Tuesday in August in every 5th year. Omtata says this article has been wrongly interpreted by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, politicians and the public to mean that elections have to be held after every 5 years, the reason the next general election is anticipated for August 2022. He now wants the court to determine that the next general election should be held in August of 2021 and not August 2022. He says the constitution is clear on the fixed term of parliament which expires on the date of the next general election, which according to him depends on when the second Tuesday in August in every 5th year falls. He also argues that since the general election was on the 8th of August 2017, the next one should be held on the 17th of August 2021. Omtata's argument creates a constitutional dilemma as it could shorten Parliament's term by a whole year. Secondly, the presidential term is fixed on the date he is sworn in. Article 142(1) states that the president shall hold office for a term beginning on the date on which the president was sworn in and ending when the person next elected president is sworn in. Noting that a presidential election is pegged on the life of parliament and that there is only one general election where voting for all elective positions take place, the preposition by Omtata could mean a shorter term for the president by a year, or that the president serves another year after parliament's life ends. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
Some of the latest talk on referendum. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has maintained that it is up to the electorate to decide whether to have the proposed constitutional changes to the supreme law or not. Kalonzo was speaking at Magonga area in Kitutu North for the homecoming event of the flamboyant Kisii politician Don Bosco Gichana.
Wengine wanasema katiba irekebishwe, wengine wanapinga. Hiyo ni hali ya Kenya. Kenya hii ni ajabu. Nyinyi wenyewe wananchi wa Kenya ndio mtaamua kama mnataka marekebisho ama hamtaki. Kwa hali ambayo mimi kila wakati husema tukiwa na contested referendum, hiyo kwanza inaanza mgawanyiko hapa. Nataka nimpongeze Rais Uhuru Kenyatta hapa. Yeye mwenyewe alienda akasema ni lazima ndugu Raila apate kiti. Akamtafutia kiti. Hiyo ni ubora jamani. Hawa jamaa hebu fikirieni vile walikuwa wanatukanana. Hata watu kama Kalonzo hajui kutukana mtu karibu naanza kutukanana.
Nandi Hills Member of Parliament Alfred Keter and his Moiben counterpart Silas Tiren have accused National Cereals and Produce Board NCPB of being behind a scheme to create an artificial shortage of maize in the country so that certain traders could import maize. The leaders say the NCPB's claims that several bags of maize in their depot had gone bad was meant to cover up for the traders who had been paid at the expense of genuine farmers, even though they hadn't supplied any maize to NCPB.
That's why we're telling Kinjuri. Why is it that he's giving out this information in piecemeal? If he knows something, why can't he come out and say the problems are this? Mind you, these people who are paid, there was no person who was paid by just a small person because they were being paid so much money. Who authorized the payment? Whose account did it go to? Who was it wired to?
And they are confirming our fears that most of the people who benefited from the subsidized price, from the payments by National Cereals and Produce Board, the 7 billion, were the brokers who imported the maize because they want to do a cover-up. In most cases, most of the brokers did not supply anything to National Cereals and Produce Board. And that is the reason why they want to give allegations that the maize that is within the depots of National Cereals and Produce Board are spoiled. And that is the reason why some of these brokers have started some campaigns telling the farmers that they should now diversify the crops that they want to they are producing. They are telling them that they want to produce other crops, not maize, because they want to import.
NTV Weekend Edition takes its first break, but when we come back, we should be live from the county of Nyeri with one Gladys Nyeri Kashanja. Stay with us.
Thank you for staying with NTV. We're coming to you live from county number 19, Nyeri County. And to be very specific, the Nyeri National Polytechnic. It is a chilly evening here, but hey, we are braving it for you to bring you the latest from this county. A lot coming from this county. Remember, a lot of history is embedded in this county, going way back into the Mau Mau days. But before we get to that, let's look at the health. And it is always a relief for cancer patients after a declaration of being cancer-free. However, the struggle with pain and dented coffers still haunts cancer survivors. To others who have had to have some parts of their body amputated still have to struggle with the stigma and the aftermath of the darkest prints left behind in their walk with the deadly disease. Eunice Omolo is in Nyeri County and brings us the struggle faced by the survivors.
They come together every year, united in the victory of a hard-fought and won battle. They celebrate their new lease of life, another birthday of sorts. They have squared off with cancer in the ring and have come out victorious. A majority of those gathered at the Nyeri Health Center are breast and cervical cancer survivors, now declared cancer-free.
I'm a survivor of breast cancer for 25 years. Nikatoa matiti yote, nikafanyiwa chemotherapy, radiotherapy. Nilikuwa na tabu nyingi sana. Singekuwa na pesa, singekuwa hata busi, hata kuku sina.
They may have won the fight, but the scars they bear are still visible. The loss of a breast or two for some of these women left stigmatized, recoiled and hidden from the society.
Nilikuwa tu nasikia sitatoka kwa nyumba. Nilikaa sana by the way. Nikaanza sasa kutengeneza tufitu ya kuweka ndio at least niweze kutoka. Nilikuwa nafaria macho, makoi. Nilikuwa naona kila mtu anaona ni kama kuna kitu sina.
Mtu akitoroa matiti anakaanga fogodhali akikuwa hanai. Pande moja yake inainama, anaendanga hivi.
Today, close to 200 breast cancer survivors were receiving prosthetic breasts and bras and in a small way regaining their dignity. Most breast cancer patients have to go through mastectomy, that is the removal of the affected breast or breast. The process also involves the removal of lymph nodes found under the arm. For those lucky, it prevents the spread of the disease, but they still have to struggle with the consistent fluid retention in the affected arm.
And some have very severe sorings because they even don't know how to do the massage. They have never heard of it. They even don't have the sleeves.
Managing the swelling on the arm is costly. The reason why the cancer survivors are asking the National Health Insurance Funds to extend coverage to cater for the much needed services by the survivors.
This is something that it is not covered by the National Hospital Fund. 2,500. Who can, for massaging, who can afford?
As it stands, the NHIF finances diagnosis and treatment locally. The National Health Insurance cover for chemo is capped at 600,000 Kenya shillings for beneficiary, covering 6 chemo cycles that are each administered monthly. Radiotherapy cover is capped at 70,000 shillings for 20 sessions. The Ministry of Health has been challenged with concerns and management of non-communicable diseases in the country. In partnership with the county government of Nyeri, the Slope Cancer Awareness organized the event, graced by the county's Director of Medical Services, Dr. Nelson Mureu. It was not just songs and dances. Being Cancer Awareness Month, information of cancer was shared. Hundreds also turned up for cancer screening. As the Awareness Month comes to a close, the challenge remains embracing early screening for the detection of the cancers, as well as increased funding for treatment and management of the disease that has continued to claim lives in the country. Eunice Omolo, NTV from Nyeri County.
Now to some history that's very well tied to the present. And during the country's struggle for independence, the British government displaced many residents of Mount Kenya region living on fertile lands. Now over half a century later, generations of the displaced continue to live on the small pieces of land whose ownership they cannot prove. Now while some of them have been successfully resettled by the government, others continue to live like serfs, a juxtaposition of how heroes should live. NTV's Melita Oletenges takes us to Nyeri's colonial village of Kakuret in Kieni constituency.
Kakuret Colonial Village in Nyeri is where we find Thirikwa Kamau listening to the radio.
He's been doing this for years, but no good news has been forthcoming. News that would give him hopes of ownership of the piece of land he calls home. Despite his father having fought for independence, he says the government has given him, together with other children of war veterans, the raw end of the stick as they live a miserable life in shacks in this colonial village.
Serikali ni kama kutuwekea mzigo kubwa kiauri, kututoa huku tungevaidikia ni kutuleta ati tutapata machapa. Kuweko hapa kutoka siku hiyo 1963 kuachwa hapa ni kusahauliwa.
They found themselves in the colonial villages after their fathers emerged from the forest where they had fought the white settlers to find their land gone. Efforts by the government to resettle these quarters over the years have hit a brick wall. Thousands of acres allocated to squatters in places such as Solio Ranch have often been taken by tycoons who take advantage of their illiteracy. Over 3,000 squatters were issued with title deeds by President Uhuru Kenyatta last year, but they say many of them were still left out.
Magepatiana machaba hiyo, Uhuru ngekuwa kwa watu wote, lakini Uhuru hapana iko kwa watu wote, ni kwa nudhu hawa matajiri.
92-year-old Faith Wanjiru, now frail, has lived here since the colonial days and now lives with her grown children in this rickety house. The population in this village continues to increase, but the amenities remain limited. There is only one toilet serving close to 30 people with no bathroom. They shower in their houses. The risk of contracting diseases is high.
Watoto wameongezeka kwa maana wale tulianza nao wamezaa, kwa maana hawana pahali ya kwenda. Hata wameanza kuoana wenyewe kwa wenyewe.
In these villages, there are no farmlands. They also have squeezed graveyards, which requires them to exhume the bodies of their forefathers to bury the dead.
Ikiwa mama amezeeka hapa, baba amezeeka hapa, mimi mwenyewe sasa nimezeeka, ndio mtoto wangu yule kwanza naye anafuata mimi. Kweli sisi tutakufa yote, tukusanye chimo moja, tuishie kule.
The deplorable state in which children and grandchildren of Kenya's freedom fighters live in is the greatest irony of Kenya's independence struggle. Their quest to seek justice over and over hitting a dead end, leaving them desperate yet hopeless in finding a better life. Milita Oletenges, NTV, in Kakuret Village, Nyeri County.
Well, a lot more coming from this county. Make sure you do stay with us. But let us now shift gears to education matters. And Kenya has taken deliberate steps to ensure it is a hub for higher education in Africa. This is according to Education CS Amina Mohammed, who spoke during the closing ceremony of the 6th Ruforam Biennial Conference, had quite a word there, in Nairobi. Now, the conference brought together over 800 delegates from across the continent, including university students and vice chancellors, as well as policymakers. Key institutions were also represented at the meeting, including the African Union Commission, regional economic communities, higher education networks and institutions, research organizations, and others. The 2018 Ruforam Conference.
Exploiting scientific and technological insights. Accordingly, Kenya's Vision 2030 has focused on intensifying the utilization of science, technology, and innovation to raise productivity and efficiency levels in our country.
Now, the newly crowned Miss Tourism Kenya, along with the 2 runners-up, will be aboard the inaugural historic Kenya Airways direct flight to New York. The tourism winners are expected to use the opportunity to market the country with the aim of drawing more tourists to the country's less-known attractions. The 3 will also be in the company of the outgoing Miss Tourism, Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, and the chairman of the Council of Governors pledged support to the team as they strive to push the youth agenda into the national conversation. Well, that's all coming from Nyeri County. Remember, county number 19. A lot more coming from here, including the trend coming right after this bulletin. Over to you, Mark Masai. But before I hand over to you completely, at this point I say, Adwa Nyeri nitwasho kiagado gutunyita ogani. My name is Gladys Agemajita Gajeriwaga Shanja. We'll see you tomorrow.
Atiatia. Yes, we'll be back from Nyeri with Dan Mwangi, who will be handling the business. But to news just before I take a break, and this is something we're following up. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations has arrested Lugari Member of Parliament, Ayub Savula, over corruption. The MP has been arrested over allegations of conspiring to steal some 122 million shillings from the Ministry of Information and Technology. Savula will be taken to court on Monday, and the DCI has been looking into the embezzlement of 2.5 billion shillings from the Government Advertising Agency. And just to recap on that, the Directorate of Criminal Investigation has arrested Lugari Member of Parliament, the man that you see there, Ayub Savula, over corruption. The MP has been arrested over allegations of conspiring to steal 122 million shillings from the Ministry of Information and Technology. Savula will be in court on Monday. The DCI has been looking into the embezzlement of 2.5 billion shillings from the Government Advertising Agency. With 35 minutes past the hour, we take another break. We'll be back with business from the county of Nyeri. I am not Dan Mwangi. There is a bit of a problem, Kwena Goma, with our sound from there. But as soon as we settle it, we'll be able to cross over there. But let me handle the business on his behalf for now. Telco of Kenya is planning on laying off close to half of its employees in a restructuring move it says is aimed at cutting costs. The Telco today issued a 30-day statutory notice to regulators and stakeholders, including the Ministry of Labour, stating that the exercise will see 500 of its 1,200 employees sent packing. In a statement, Telkom said that this move will enable it to invest more into the growth and sustainability of its business. In the last 2 years, the company has invested 14 billion shillings into its business to expand its network coverage. The Employment and Labour Relations Court has temporarily barred the Kenya Aviation Workers Union from boycotting work ahead of KQ's maiden direct flight to the US on Sunday. The Kenya Aviation Workers Union had on Monday issued a strike notice demanding better perks for the crew who will man the 15-hour flight, as well as conclusion of a long-standing CBA seeking to rationalize workers' pay. Other than allocation of additional staff for cabin crew on the long-haul flight, the union wants the cabin crew to be paid 20,000 shillings per hour, exceeded up to a maximum of 21 hours duty period, up from the 5,000 shillings per hour that KQ has offered to pay them. The union has suspended the proposed boycott, meaning that it's now all systems go for the inaugural flight to the Big Apple. Identification of anchor buyers of farmers' produce is one of the ways to go if the country is to help address the challenge of post-harvest losses. Such buyers would commit to purchase a significant proportion or all of farmers' produce on agreed terms, therefore presenting a ready market. Julian Zamboko with more details.
Kenya loses more than 20% of its annual maize production after harvesting, according to the Tegemeo Institute of Agricultural Policy. What this means is that in a year like 2017, when the country produced 3.2 million tons of maize, up to 637,000 tons, or 48% of all maize that was imported, could have been lost due to poor handling after harvesting. The Kenya Livestock Producers Association now says identification of anchor buyers would play a significant role in addressing challenges related to accessing markets often faced by small-scale farmers.
Where we want to reduce the 40% post-harvest loss is that already we have a buyer on board. So when we are harvesting, the buyer is already there. So it's an issue of weighing and the buyer pays the farmer.
The association has also called for strengthening of agricultural extension services through the devolved government, with the goal of boosting farmers' productivity through adoption of best practices.
Currently, the ratio of an extension officer to the farmers is 1 to 10,000. And even agriculture having been devolved, the ratio is still big. The recommended ratio should be extremely lower. But we want to use the synergies of working with the farmers themselves.
The National Policy on Agricultural Extension Services provides for decentralized extension service provision in line with the devolved structure of government. Farmers now hope that this can be harnessed to boost productivity. Julian Samboko, NTV.
I'm told we have Dan Mwangi back. The sound has been sorted out. Todi Ebere.
Thank you very much, Mark Masai, and definitely we are going to be giving you some of the business news from the county number 19, that's the county of Nyeri, where it's quite electrifying. Behind me there's a lot of activity going on, that's in terms of preparations for the trend. But before we get there, let's continue with matters of your money. And shares of electricity generator, that's KenGen, have surged by nearly 4% in trading at the Nairobi Securities Exchange after the company ended a 2-year dividends drought by declaring a 40 cents per share dividend, I beg your pardon. Vitaki Prop has more.
As of the closing of trading at the stocks market today, KenGen stocks were trading at 7 shillings and 45 cents per share, slightly higher than the 7 shillings and 20 cents on Wednesday, as investors warmed up to news of the company's first dividend issue in 2 years.
To the investors, we also want to give you hope
that the best is yet to come, not only for KenGen, but for the entire energy sector. And this year, we are proposing a dividend of 40 cents per share. That is a 33% payout.
The company will pay its shareholders about 64 billion shillings in dividends for the year, despite a 12.3% drop in net profit for the financial year ended June 2018 to 7.89 billion shillings from the 9 billion shillings recorded in the previous year. KenGen attributed the marginal drop in earnings to the removal of the tax incentive it enjoyed in the previous years for commissioning of new geothermal plants. The absence of the incentive saw tax expenses rise from 2.45 billion shillings to 3.85 billion shillings in the period under review.
KenGen has produced good results in a very constrained environment. We sold 7,989 gigawatt hours. This was an increase from the previous years by about 5.7%. Our revenues grew by about 4.2%, despite the fact that we did not commission any new plant.
After a 2-year wait, KenGen shareholders finally have something to smile about as they wait to be paid 40 cents for every share they hold in the company in what is said to be KenGen's largest ever dividend payout. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business, Nairobi.
Technical institutions are opening doors for many youth who would have otherwise had a harder time getting higher education and what have been considered decent jobs. Now more students are getting fulfillment and value from technical training institutions. They are receiving empowerment to make a decent living out of a traditionally undervalued line of livelihood.
The noise of process as machine works under the watch and instruction of man. Over the years, not much of prestige has been attributed to students who choose to go the technical way. However, the array of switches and buttons have been the right ones to press for many young people, such as those at the Nyeri National Polytechnic.
Education imensaidia sana kwa upande wa kama school fees.
Those who are going through the courses speak highly of the trainings and career paths that have in the past been looked down upon when put up against those born of degree courses.
Inasaidia sana kwa technical skills. Kitoka nje ni rahisi sana kupata kazi compared to other courses.
Even as the prospects of getting job opportunities look up, there is also the promise held in nurturing entrepreneurship.
Na hizo skills niko nazo kujiajiri, kufanya kama kazi welding, machining, fabrication, hizo zote naweza.
The enrollment pool of learners at the Polytechnic is varied and inclusive of fairly young people.
Wengine wanajiajiri, wale wengine wanaenda industries. Na siku hizi we are training on CBET courses. Kwa hivyo wakimaliza wako na zile competencies zinahitajika huko kwa industries. Kwa hivyo wanapata kazi mara moja.
As opportunities for young people especially are manufactured in the technical space, there is greater recognition of the value of the services they provide and the promise they hold, a changing narrative in the education and employment spaces.
The Nairobi Securities Exchange closed the week with a slight gain compared to last week. Now the 20-share index also had a change, and we take a look at the week that has been at the NSC as reported by Julius Amboko. And that's it for tonight from county number 19, but a lot more to look forward to in the weekend that's ahead, both business and other news, and including the historic aspects of this, some of the cultural. There's a lot to tell you from the county number 19, and the team that's here is ready and raring to go to ensure that you get to know what it's all about in the county number 19. That's the county of Nyeri. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dan Mwangi. Have yourself a great night. Have a good night, Mark, as well.
NTV Weekend Edition with Mark Masai.
Welcome back. We used to have defections, but this has evolved into what some call political cooperation. It's a game that involves lots of gymnastics, both physical and verbal, and the Kakamega bullfighter Boni Khalwale has emerged as a main contender for gold in this category. Boni is now dancing with the enemy, and as Emmanuel Juma now reports on Bullseye, Khalwale says it's all about knowing people.
The one-legged dance tutor is at it again. Here are his monos, the new recruits for Boni's School of Dance. And boy, has he not taught many. Oh yes, and now not even Raila is welcome to this particular class.
Sasa denzi iliyobaki ni ya Khalwale na William Ruto na Mudavadi.
But why Khalwale? Why?
Ndio namwambia mzee Raila, sasa miaka imekataa. Pana kuja huko utaweza shika kiuno ya mtoto mwenye umezaa, hiyo ni makosa makubwa sana.
He is a shrewd politician, but Oparanya thinks it's just a case of knowing which side of the bread is well buttered.
Hata kama tuna asali kule, wewe tulia.
Say all you want to say, people. Boni is in business.
Kuna wale wanafikiri mimi niko katika safari ya biashara.
Whatever he's engaged in is his business. Ama namna gani, my friend?
Aidha biashara ya kutafuta pesa, ama biashara ya kutafuta sifa, ama biashara ya kutegea, ili baada ya kura mimi nipate nafasi ya kupewa cheo katika serikali ambayo itakuwako.
But why Ruto?
Crime. Working with William Ruto is just like working with anybody else.
And Boni is preaching the gospel across the land of Mulembe.
I am talking to Mheshimiwa Ruto. I'm talking to President Uhuru. We want them to accept that their communities have led the country for 50 years, watuachie na sisi tuongoze nchi hii. Murioma na kumbulisha wangu
kwamba Ruto is a competitor. Kwa hivyo hatuwezi kujipanga tujiunganishe and then we go to the competitor.
Mheshimiwa ndugu yangu Mudavadi, hiyo ni kweli. Ruto is your competitor. But if you want to grow to the next level, mpaka ufanye alliance with a strong competitor, yeye awe rais na wewe uwe makamu ya rais.
This net that has caught Boni is catching both small and big fish.
And Boni Khalwale was my mentor when my husband was still alive.
There is one of Boni's mentees. But mama, how come? Why Khalwale?
Huyu Mungu ni Mungu wa maajabu sana. Yani alileta utamu akaweka kwa mananasi, ingine akaweka kwa matunda, ingine akaweka kwa ndizi, ingine akatupa huko kwa wamama.
A Swahili friend would have said, sisemi kitu. Is it any wonder that the son of Jomo amusingly thinks salvation for us can only come from above? Talking of above and related matters.
Tulikuwa tunapeleka watu Canaan, tukafika mto Jordan, tukakuta mamba. Ile tulifundishwa huko kwa Sunday school kuhusu safari ya Canaan. Hatukuambiwa kulikuwa na mamba, lakini sasa tumejua kumbe kulikuwa na mamba.
We do not really know where Canaan is, do we?
Plenty be found within our borders. Kwa Biblia, hiyo ndio Canaan.
Then there is the job Agwambo got.
Zile ofisi za hiyo kazi ya Raila hata haziko South Africa, kule Afrika Kusini. Mimi naelewa Afrika vizuri. Ile ofisi ya kazi ya Raila iko kule Egypt, pahali inaitwa Misri. Kwa hivyo safari ya Canaan imerudi pale Misri.
Different job descriptions, a myriad of headquarters. Amazing how politicians seem to know everything amounting to nothing. Then there is this thing called referendum.
Simba tunabadilisha before 2020. Hiyo tunabadilisha. There is no doubt about it, and there is nobody who is going to stop us.
Mimi nasikia wengine wakisema katiba ni lazima tubadilishe na itabadilishwa venye tunataka. Sasa nauliza jamani, kwani Kenya imekuwa yako?
Carefully chungwa. This is no small man.
Ndoka kwa haraka kwa ajili rais. Mambo ya mashujaa itakuwa kule kwetu Kakamega, na yeye anaingia sasa hivi jioni. Anataka sisi kama viongozi wa huo mkoa tumkaribishe.
You see?
Wewe Francis Atuli, umewahi kuwa hata MCA ndio utafutie mtu kura?
Ouch! Now there is a man burning his bridges, starring the hornet's nest. Is this the same man?
Sana mimi ndio Khalwale.
Listen to him before he went into business.
Pesa yenye wewe unalipwa mshahara haina uwezo ya kuwezesha wewe Deputy President kujenga nyumba ya kifahari ya 1.2 billion.
Ebindu bichenjanga indeed, but it's about choosing. Khalwale chooses the son of Samoei.
Na Mheshimiwa Ruto, yeye ananijua, mimi ninamjua, tumewahi kusalimiana vizuri.
Yani hiyo ni sayansi gani unataka?
Muda, it is his choice. And what does the man in charge of food choose?
And I choose not to respond to you.
What?
I choose not to give you that opportunity.
Well, choose, swoosh, shoes, whatever. Who cares? We just want food.
And I choose not to respond to you because some of you are politically frustrated.
Emmanuel Juma, Bullseye, NTV.
I choose to take a break, and we'll be back with the sports with Watson Karuma after that. Stay with us.
Welcome to NTV Sport. I'm Watson Karuma. Now, Kariobangi Sharks striker Eric Kapaito is the 2018 Kenyan Premier League Most Valuable Player of the Year. The forward was feted in a gala on Thursday and also walks away with the New Player of the Year award as well as the Golden Boot for his 16 goals. Aida Waringa followed all the action with the footballers in suits for the details.
Players and stakeholders in the top tier of Kenyan football turned out for the Kenyan Premier League Football Awards to fet the best of the best in the just concluded season. Kariobangi Sharks' Eric Kapaito was the man of the night as he scooped the coveted Most Valuable Player of the Year award that came with 1 million shillings in prize money. Kapaito also took home the New Player of the Year gong and the Golden Boot award for his 16 goals scored for the Kariobangi Sharks in his debut season.
Nilikuwa tu na furaha kubwa na nashukuru Mungu kwa hiyo time alinipa, kwa hiyo moment ambaye aliniwezesha kuwa. So ilikuwa time poa kabisa kwangu, nilifurahia kabisa.
Other major winners were the Bandari duo of Feli Mulumba and Farouk Shikalo, who took awards for Defender of the Year and Goalkeeper of the Year respectively in a season that saw the coastal side finish second on the log. Mathare United's Cliff Nyakea won the Midfielder of the Year award. Despite Gor Mahia winning the KPL title with 6 games to spare, no Kogalo player emerged top in any individual award category, with Jacques Tuisenge taking second runners-up in the Golden Boot and the club winning the Fair Play Club of the Year award. Gor coach Dylan Kerr took home the Coach of the Year award.
When you look at it, to be honest, there was no transparency. It's not fair that you look at Gor Mahia players. We have participated in CAF. We are almost making it to the quarterfinals. We have played in Super Cup, and now next week we are flying to England.
Kariobangi Sharks' Eric Kapaito with 3 wins out of 4 nominations, and all attention now shifts to the next season that will start in December, the new format in line with CAF regulations. Aida Waringa, NTV, Kenya School of Government.
Congratulations to the winners. Now, the Kenya Rugby Union needs 28 million shillings to send Kenya Simbas to the repechage, which is the last chance qualification for the 2019 Rugby World Cup. Chairman Richard Omwela has appealed to the Kenyan government to fast-track their pledge regarding providing cash to fund the Simbas. Last Friday, the KRU held a fundraising ceremony in Karen, Nairobi, where Omwela said 1.1 million shillings was raised. The Simbas are set to leave for Europe on Wednesday ahead of the repechage against Germany, Canada and Hong Kong, which will be played for a span of 3 weeks. Kenya will play a friendly against Romania A in Bucharest before the match.
So it's us, Canada, Germany, Hong Kong playing for that one slot to go into the World Cup. I want to thank first of all the Simbas for the preparation that they've done despite very, very many challenges that we've had going into the Reaper. It's been very, very challenging, particularly on the financial aspects, because we haven't had the best of preparations in terms of the funding that we have and so on. So for the shoestring budget that we've had, we thank you very much for the perseverance that we've had from the start of the training until now.
Impala Floodlight Tournament defending champions KCB have named winger Jacob Oje in the squad to face host Impala Saracens in Saturday's final. Oje was this week left out of the Kenya Simba squad, thus giving head coach Curtis Olago a chance to select him. He replaces Isaac Njoroge on the right wing. Impala Saracens head coach named Wekesa Soita to replace Edgar Obino at loose head, while Elvis Oroko is replaced by Steven Sharma, who goes to 8. A £20 billion overhaul of world football. coming from Spain, of course, in the WRC. The dust. And it's raining in Kenya.
Yeah, I mean, the rain is a blessing, but someone is making fun of how I responded to Kiojure when he said, I choose not to sport. But it's funny. Someone said, I choose not to shave my beard. And I was trying to look like him, my senior here in the newsroom. And I think I'm getting there. I'm struggling, but I'm getting there.
He's getting there indeed. And I choose not to comment on that one.
Thank you, Watson.
I'm not making fun of anyone, but I think it's funny. And it's a coincidence that we have a team in Nyeri, and it's an accent that we see there. It's
yes.
a stereotype. We don't mean to
be proud of it. Be proud of it. Anyway, we were talking about Nyeri earlier, and we will be back in a moment with the trend. Half of it will be there, and a bit of it will be here with Amina Abdi Rabar. But Dr. Kingore will be taking charge from the county of Nyeri.
Looking forward to that, and I understand a former Larry host. I mean,
Larry Mado.
Did I give it away?
Larry Mado.
A former trend host.
Larry, you do want to say Larry?
Larry will be here. I understand. Looking forward to that, of course, as well. Keep it NTV. Of course, tomorrow we have Top Sport from 2 p.m. The sports team is excited about that, and we are curious to see what they have in store. I am as well. I hope you are. For me, it's a good night.
Good night for me as well. Have a good weekend.